When I decided to write about loneliness, I felt for a moment that I was stepping into an intimate, almost sacred space, a place where I don't often invite people. Although I'm not ashamed that I've lived through experiences of loneliness, I've never quite found the right words to explain what it means to me. So if you want to know what I think about loneliness, I will tell you my story as it feels from the inside, not how it looks from the outside. First of all, loneliness does not begin with the absence of people, as I once believed. The absence of people produces only silence. Real loneliness begins with a fracture between me and myself, a feeling that my own presence is no longer enough, that the space I occupy becomes either too large or too small for what I feel. Many times I found myself in the middle of a room full of people and felt myself fading. That's when I understood that loneliness is a feeling that doesn't need external emptiness, but an inner void. When I was younger, I believed that loneliness was just a transitional stage, a kind of pause between two important states. I would tell myself, it's normal to feel lonely from time to time. It can't be something permanent. Then came the periods when loneliness seemed to become my primary mode of functioning, a filter through which I perceived the world, a lens that magnified the distance between me and others. In those moments, it felt as if others knew instinctively how to be together, while I was always one step outside the circle. I've learned, however, that loneliness has many shades, and if I want to be honest with myself, I have to acknowledge them all. There is the painful loneliness that settles in after an abandonment or a loss. There is protective loneliness when I choose to withdraw, to repair, or rediscover myself. There is also creative loneliness, the one that opens space for thoughts, ideas, revelations. And then there is passive loneliness, when I just let myself be carried by the current without really knowing where my emotions are taking me. Each type comes with its own lessons, and I've felt them all, although I didn't always name them at the time. One essential thing I've understood about loneliness is that it shouldn't be demonized. For a long time, I treated it as an enemy. I believed that if I felt lonely, it meant something was wrong with me. I would ask myself obsessive questions. Why can't I be like everyone else? Why don't I feel complete in their company? What am I doing wrong? But in time, I learned that loneliness is part of human nature, just like joy, anger, or hope. It is not an illness, and not a sentence, just a signal. Sometimes it shows me that I need connection. Other times it shows me that I need myself. What surprised me most was that, as I began to accept loneliness, it became lighter, as if the feeling itself would shrink and shape itself according to how I looked at it. Many times I felt like I was fighting a monster, but in reality, I was fighting my projection of it. When I stopped being afraid, the monster turned into a quiet companion, simply drawing my attention to the fact that I was going through a process of change. It's important to say that loneliness doesn't come to me only in moments of fragility. Sometimes it appears when everything seems to be going well, and then I face a contradiction. How can I feel lonely when my life, at least in theory, looks the way I wanted it to? The answer I found is that loneliness doesn't check the context. It comes when something inside me needs depth or authenticity. No matter how fulfilled I may seem on the outside, if I am not connected with myself or with the people around me at a real level, loneliness catches up with me. What you need to know about loneliness, if you are willing to see it through my eyes, is that it is not a flaw, not even a constant suffering. It is a process, an inner voice, a demanding but useful teacher. It has taught me to distinguish relationships that uplift me from those that drain me. It has taught me to listen to myself before seeking validation from others. It has taught me not to run toward people out of fear, but out of genuine desire for connection. There is, however, a darker side to loneliness that I cannot ignore. There are days when it presses on me, days when the air feels heavy and I feel disconnected from everything around me. In those moments, even simple gestures become complex. A phone call I don't make, an invitation I don't answer, a message for which I can't find the right words. That's when I understand that loneliness has the power to paralyze me, to hold up a mirror and show me the vulnerabilities I try to hide. But even those painful moments have taught me something essential. Loneliness does not define me, it just passes through me. An important lesson I've learned is not to confuse solitude with isolation. When I am alone, physically alone, I can feel free, calm, creative, inspired. But when I am isolated, I feel pressure, a kind of wall between me and the world outside. Loneliness does not necessarily mean the absence of people. Isolation does. And isolation is dangerous because it narrows my perspective and makes me believe nothing can change. That's why I try to notice the difference. Do I withdraw because I need to, or because I am running from something? Is it silence, or is it blockage? As I've moved deeper into this introspection, I also discovered the beautiful side of loneliness, its ability to rebuild me. In the moments when I felt the most alone, I learned who I am when no one is watching. I discovered what I truly enjoy, what calms me, what nourishes me emotionally. Loneliness became, paradoxically, the space where I started to truly know myself. When no one expects anything from me, I can observe my thoughts, dreams, and fears honestly. Loneliness becomes a meeting place between me and my essence. Another thing I realized is that sometimes I cling to people just so I don't have to face loneliness. I fill my time, my schedule, my life with presences that don't really bring me anything, just to avoid the emptiness. But the emptiness doesn't disappear, it only hides for a while. Every time I've done this, loneliness came back stronger. I understood then that I cannot run from myself. I cannot ignore what I feel just because it's uncomfortable. Fulfillment does not come from avoidance, but from acceptance. I wish I could say that I have completely deciphered the meaning of loneliness, but that would be a lie. I have only learned to accept it, and to try to transform it from a fear into a tool. When I feel it now, I see it as a message. Maybe I need to change direction to get closer to someone, or to tell myself something I've been avoiding for a long time. Loneliness is a barometer for my emotional needs. Sometimes it shows me I need rest. Sometimes that I need to be heard, seen, or understood. Other times it shows me that I must let go of things that no longer serve me. There are moments when I admit loneliness still scares me. Maybe because it reminds me of times when I didn't have the resources to handle it. But today, I feel more at peace with it. I've understood that it's not an ending, but a beginning. Loneliness pushed me to rediscover myself, to ask myself sincere questions, and to seek real connections. It has taught me to be selective, to notice who brings light into my life and who only consumes my energy. It has taught me that if I cannot enjoy my own company, at least sometimes, no one else will be able to fill that space for me. Another truth I've discovered is that people are afraid to talk about loneliness. We feel that if we admit we feel lonely, we are admitting some kind of human failure. But that's not true. Loneliness is universal. We all experience it in different ways. Sometimes talking about it, even though it feels difficult, frees us. It gives us the sense that we are understood, that we are not as isolated as we think. That's why I try to speak about loneliness, even if I do so awkwardly. Because maybe, in my vulnerability, someone will find the courage to acknowledge their own experience. What you need to know about loneliness, if you want to understand what I've been through, is that it is not static. It changes. It evolves. Before, it was something I ran from. Now, it is a balancing element in my life. I use it as a mirror that doesn't lie. Sometimes it shows me that I am losing myself in superficial things. Sometimes it shows me that I am not investing enough in the relationships that matter. Other times it tells me I need to return to myself. Loneliness reveals my vulnerabilities, but also my inner strength. It has made me more attentive, more empathetic, more present. I try to end this text, and I realize that talking about loneliness is like trying to describe a city I've lived in for years. I know its dark streets, but also its bright parks. I know the places where I got lost and the corners where I found myself again. I know what its winter looks like, long and cold, but I also know what its spring looks like, when new things begin to grow inside me. Loneliness, for me, is no longer an exile. It is a map one. I am still reading, still deciphering. And perhaps this is the main truth. Loneliness does not disappear, but it can transform. I can choose how I live it, how I interpret it, and what I learn from it. I can choose to see it not as a punishment, but as an invitation to sincerity. I can choose not to hide from it, and, perhaps most importantly, I can choose not to hide from myself. So if you ask me what you need to know about loneliness, I will tell you simply, it is a path we all walk, even if we don't talk about it. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it heals, but it always teaches you something. And once you begin to understand it, it is no longer your enemy. It becomes a guide, an inner space where you can meet yourself maybe for the first time, truly.